All right, so we have a lot to talk about, especially if you guys have seen the latest Q&A, the latest Forged in Turnip series. This is an interesting series because it starts to make clear to me what the devs are using it for when it comes to this and the dev update. The dev update kind of being the big, or at least shifting into kind of the big news update. It's going to be less frequent, but the Forged in Turnip series being able to provide a lot of the information, maybe what we already know, them expanding upon it, them doing deeper dives and deeper conversations with the devs, so you don't end up having a dev update that's like an hour and a half long with mostly information that the majority of the active player base already knows. And so the dev updates are probably going to get a little bit tighter, but it's going to be more impactful. And the Forged in Turnip series is going to allow them to do what they just did. Let's dive into this video, guys. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Brian if you're new around here. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back, and thank you so much for being awesome. That's what you get for subscribing, by the way. Free compliments and additional greetings somewhere at the start of these videos. Now, today's video is focusing in on my thoughts about their Forged in Turnip series. Now, watch to the end if you haven't already seen it, but we're going to talk about the ending right here at the start. First and foremost, Scott breaks in at the end. They forgot to talk about this in the video, but he wanted to make sure he was absolutely clear. And it sounds like, and obviously when we're using the word committing to, it sounds like their plan is a yearly major update like we saw with Brimstone Sands, and then the rest of the year having our kind of seasonal updates, which are still pretty impactful, but nothing like the big one that happens every year. And that seems like what they're targeting, which could mean that we're not seeing an expansion model, but kind of a yearly, like, here's the big content update. And that's one of the big reasons why they have left it off of the roadmap, because they're still working to make sure that they can refine and do what they need to do and commit to what they need to commit to. Because the other thing is that he feels like bad is that the leaderboards did not make the roadmap, and they announced that the leaderboards are now shifting into February, which is a little bit of a bummer, but I'd rather them get it right out the gate. And this is the only thing that they missed from the roadmap, and he forgot, and he said that he's sorry that he didn't also include that on the newest roadmap. And I think that would have been an important thing to see, to help communicate, because I've been under the impression the leaderboards were coming out in December because they're already on the PTR. So all that being said, February is when that's happening, but it sounds like with the fall, the September or October update, that's going to be kind of when their big yearly update occurs, where who knows what we'll end up seeing. Now, the devs go on to address PvP, especially the PvP feedback, and also new weapons. And I think it's going to have to be very clear. They continue to hit on that the next weapon is not daggers. It is going to be a focus-based weapon, and that is becoming more and more clear. Daggers are not deleted out of the game. Those still are a part of the ongoing conversation when it comes to expanding the weapon set within this game. But it sounds like from an order of operations, a focus-based weapon is next, and they don't yet know where it falls. So that's one of the reasons why they did not include it on the roadmap specifically. So don't hear that and think, oh, it's coming this spring. If it does, that's going to be awesome. If it doesn't, it wasn't promised to come in, any part of the roadmap that they have currently shared with us. In terms of PvP, they say that they're really working on stuff to try and encourage more open world PvP in this game. They talk about an OPR map as something that they've been discussing, but not yet currently in the planning phases, which means from a time to like, hey, we're going to go and work on this to deliver, that could be something of a bigger undertaking. But they're looking for more feedback, and they put out a community question about what revisions and changes do the players want with OPR. So feel free to go weigh in on that over on their channel. We'll be sure to continue to follow it, and I'll be sure to talk about it with you guys as it becomes more and more clear what the majority of the player base wants. When it comes to the weapons themselves, when it comes to the roadmap itself, I think the thing that's becoming very clear is that I like they did this setup. They let the roadmap be able to kind of come out and let people respond to it, and then sit down and actually address some of the major key points. Now, my major key points aren't there, like the town boards, which is a video I just released today. That's something that's interesting, and I hope to see them continue to explore in the future. The XP at level 60, like there's a couple real key points that I have that continue not to be addressed, and that's okay, because controller support I think is more important for me as a player than anything else. And speaking of which, guys, just note that I am working hard on the Steam controller update, the Steam Deck, and also have a G4 G unit, G Cloud. It's charging right now, trying to get some more updates to those for you guys this week. That is my absolute goal in terms of that content. But in terms of my notes, let me just kind of look at my notes. The major update once a year, I think, is going to be the most impactful thing. I think that's going to be something where if they do that and we don't get an expansion announcement, I think that starts to communicate that at least the game every year is going to have a big update, an impactful update, and then every quarter you're going to have a semi-big update, an impactful update, something to look forward to. But at least in terms of a marketing strategy, sounds like they're going to have New World in the news, on people's minds, at least once a year to continue to invite people back in. The question then shifts in my mind is, what about monetization, Scott? We are very interested in the conversation around the Battle Pass, and we haven't even seen that being talked about. It's not going to happen in 2022. That looks like it's a conversation that's going to shift to 2023, and I bet that's going to be a conversation when they feel like they have the best version of New World ready to go for everybody. So that could mean some of these big features, some of this roadmap means that we're not going to have that conversation in 2023, or at least until late 2023. But I'd be very interested to hear about it any which way, because regardless of how you think about battle passes, for me, if they do not expire, then I don't have a problem with battle passes. I don't want artificial FOMO introduced to this game. So I'm hoping that if nothing else, that if they're looking at that, I wouldn't mind another way of supporting this game financially, because I'm not really a big cosmetics guy. I've just never been a big cosmetics guy. But the emotes are kind of fun, and I enjoy picking up the emotes as they drop out or drop in, one way or the other. And beyond just the emotes themselves, like honestly, the idea of a battle pass that doesn't expire, meaning that you can own it, and then a new battle pass comes out, and your current battle pass or the previous battle passes can all be equipped. I think that would be something really refreshing to see in the MMORPG landscape, and I'd be very curious to see how that goes, because what we'll end up seeing, what the conversation will go into, is that sure, the numbers are up, sure, more people are playing New World, sure, it has this yearly setup, but is it enough to really continue to fund the game? Are the devs making enough money? And we'll see that kind of conversation kind of eke its way out onto the internet over the next couple of weeks. Anyway, guys, I don't want to waste anybody's time. I think that it's important to note that as a developer myself, like I can really sympathize and empathize with what they're going through and how this all kind of works out. They want anything that they can fully commit to be on the roadmap. They don't want a situation where the leaderboards shift into off the current roadmap and into the future, into a future, I guess, quarter. And when it comes down to that, that's going to help them establish more and more trust, because even if something is lacking, even if they can also continue to surprise us and bring in a lot of these features to be talked about and to be excited about, it's going to help deliver this idea that, hey, the devs have committed to these things and they delivered on these things, and then they committed to the next round of things and they delivered to those next rounds of things. And when it comes to games as a service, the numbers and the metrics all show that no matter how frustrated people express themselves to be online, new content and hype is a really great way of always having people come back and check out the game, whether they decide to stick around or if they just decide to play it for a week, a month, a year. That's going to be up to the individual players. So I think that the devs actually have a real kick-ass strategy here. Now, my critiques of some of the things that they've done, hopefully we'll like to hear them addressed at some point in the future on their own terms. I want them to have time to think about these things, and we're going to continue to be engaged in the forums and submitting feedback, and I'd highly encourage you to do so. The devs tweeted out my feedback at some point, and that was really exciting. I put it in game and I saw them tweet about it, and it was a really great experience. It really made me feel heard. It doesn't mean that they're going to implement every idea that I have or every idea that you have, nor should they. I don't want myself as a content creator to be the guy who's setting the bar and deriving the game just because you guys hit subscribe at some point. That's not our relationship. I hope that I can help amplify your voices, and then together, that as a community, we can continue to grow and love this game for everything that it is doing well, everything that it has the potential to do, and then everything that happens along the way. It's a journey, to say the least. Anyway, guys, if you want to get involved with the community, check the Discord link. Come hang out over on Twitch. We got a lot of things going on, a lot of irons in the fire. Chris and I over at Works the Game sat down today and actually talked about the roadmap. If you guys are interested, check that video out. Or check out Ginger Prime. I have Hogue Law. We're going to podcast this Wednesday. Talk about all 2022, 2023. It's been a wild year. I'm very curious as to his thoughts about the state of gaming so far. Anyway, guys, my lunch break's almost over. I'm going to get back to work. Thank you so much for your time today. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I'll see you next time, but until then, take care.